The engines on the Fat Controller's railway began to make preparations for Halloween. Most of them liked it, for the people, young and old alike, could dress up as anything that was scary. Ghost stories would come to mind to be spoken about. Some were told and based on real life events, while others were made up. A week before Halloween was due to come, Doug was taking some trucks loaded with iron to be melted at the smelter's yard where Arian Bat worked. Kildane Smelters. It was early evening and the weather had gone a little cold. Doug shunted the trucks into a siding just outside the large smelter shed, but as he was to leave, he saw some trucks in another siding being bumped and moved forward as if they were being shunted. Doug thought it was either Ari or Bud trying to play a ghostly trick on him, but they were nowhere to be seen. That's very unusual, Doug said to himself. If Ari and Bud are not here, then who is? Suddenly, a series of gunshots that echoed around the smelter's yard, followed by a scream. Doug jumped in horror. His driving fireman had been startled by a series of gunshots that they nearly fell out of his cab. Did you hear that? Asked the fireman. Hell yeah! Those were gunshots, and if you ask me, that could have been for us or for Duck. Someone's out here. Some crazy gunman is trying to kill us. Get me out of here! Hurry! Cried Duck, not wanting to stay around the area any longer. He exited the smelter's yard and raced along the main line and did not stop until he reached Titmuth Station. Once he arrived, his crew telephoned the police. They interviewed the driver and the fireman an hour later, and soon afterwards started the search at the smelters to find whoever the gunman was, but they found nothing. By the next morning, the police spoke with Doug and his crew and told them about the results. The Fat Controller came to the scene to see what was going on. What is all this? He asked with his arms folded behind his back. Sir, I was at Smelter's yard last night, explained Duck. As I was about to leave, I saw some trucks move on their own. I think it was either Ari or Bud playing a trick on me, but then I heard a series of gunshots, which was followed by a scream. The Fat Controller's eyes narrowed as Duck for a moment, but then he went into deep thought and did not reply as he turned and walked away. Duck was confused, as was fire, driver and fireman, as well as the police. Something must have triggered a nerve in the Fat Controller's head. 2 days passed and everything was working normal as everyone was getting ready for Halloween. While everyone was working, Doc told Oliver about what he had gone through last night. My God, said Oliver, wide-eyed. Glad I was not there, otherwise I too would be feeling the same way as you were. But I'm glad you're still here in one piece. That may be, replied Duck, but I was concerned for my crew. They could have been killed by whoever was shooting at us. News soon spread down the line. Most of the other engines could hardly believe it, but it made the little engines such as Thomas, Percy, and Rosie feel very concerned. However, the diesels such as Ari, Bud, and Diesel were not bothered. They was all made up. Mavis and Boko, on the other hand, took it very seriously, as did their crew. A few more days passed, and Boko was called from Brandon Station in Nels Branchline to lift some old machinery to the smelter's yard, which were waiting in Wellsworth. Doc Boko made it good timing, arriving 5 minutes earlier than expected. He was thinking about Doc's encounter while he was there. What if Doc was right and not lying, he thought to himself. Somehow there has to be a reason why this happened. Diesel rolled up alongside the mighty BR Class 28. So you believing Doc's story? He said in his infamous oily voice. Well, I, for one, could care less about. I was working there one night and found nothing strange. Everything's not always as they seem, said Boko. As my driver once said, there are some things that our minds cannot explain or understand. I'm sure you feel the same way if you were to encounter something like Duck did. Diesel gave a quiet growl. He totally despised Duck ever since that time on his first day on solo a long time ago in June 1957. Since then, the two never got along and developed a deep hatred for one another. All of this ghost nonsense will never happen to me, Diesel said arrogantly. It's all just to give someone a laugh rather than something to scare. The main thing is there's no such thing as ghosts. Those are famous last words, replied Boko. Yet those who don't believe it suffer the same price, if not the same fate. Diesel just rolled his eyes and purred away. Later that afternoon, the Fat Controllers had sent Duck to help Diesel deliver rusted machinery to the smelter's yard to be dismantled. Much to his dismay, He had to obey his orders. Of all people, Diesel said to himself crossly, the Fat Controller has sent me to work with someone who I can't stand and I will ignore my life. Is he out of his freaking mind? When Duck arrived at the station, he could see Diesel already coupled up in front of the train. Oh, God, not you again, he said in his oily voice. I could say the same thing about you, replied Duck. You better not cause any trouble and letting our differences get in the way of us. I'm in no mood for any of your lies about me like you did in the past. Diesel almost sneered at his longtime enemy. You'll find that I, too, am in no mood for any of your nonsense of how proud you are at being Great Western. Steam is all over, and one day this island will be run by us Diesels. Just you wait and see. Duck let off some steam to ease his temper as he backed down to cross the points and then hook up to the rear of the train. He couldn't stand to be within inches of Diesel. After the guard blew his whistle, the two set off. Throughout the journey, Duck and Diesel remained very quiet. That was until they arrived at the smelter's yard. The weather had changed and it had gotten dark when they had gotten there. Fog started to rise as two began to shunt the trucks and pull them to sidings. Duck had no Diesel had noticed that Duck was feeling very tense and uneasy, being there, for he was still feeling shaken from what he had gone through last time he was here. Duck being scared of something that wasn't there, he said. Ha! He'd believe anything. Unlike me, I'm not scared of anything. Again, those ghost stories are not for real. The job was almost done, as there was only a few more trucks left to be shunted. Duck was getting more uneasy as the mist was starting to get thick. Suddenly he heard a bump and two flat trucks moved forward as if they were being shunted. Duck gasped in shock, but then almost sneered when he saw Diesel coming to view. You played the ghostly trick on me, didn't you? He said, accusing him. No, I wasn't, Diesel replied crossly. I didn't even move those two flat trucks over. I was in a smelter shed. You better not be telling fibs, Duck said, narrowing his eyes. Because if you are, then, before Duck could finish his sentence, a series of gunshots echoed around the smelter's yard. Both engines jumped in horror and looked around. Grease and oil, what was that? Exclaimed Diesel. I knew this was about their coming back here, Duck said, shaking with fear. Then, to both engines' horror, a ghostly figure of another engine emerged from the fog. Its shape almost looked a mirror image of Diesel himself. Duck could not believe it himself. Then, standing beside the front of the inspector was a man, all dressed in black clothing. He was holding a gun in his right hand and had it aimed at Duck and Diesel. He stared with an icy cold look on his face. Then, from the other side came four police officers with loaded guns. The man made a run for it as he attempted to get into the cab of the ghost Diesel. At that moment, the police officers opened fire, shooting at the diesel engine as it started to back off into the smelter shed, with the man inside its cab firing back. Duck and Diesel had their eyes closed the whole time when the gun battle started, but they opened them when they saw the policemen had gone into the fog. Then, as the gun battle was now heard in the distance, there came a loud scream that was followed by a loud explosion. Diesel got scared by it, and he made a run for it without saying a word, leaving Duck behind alone. And who thought that someone like him would be scared of anything, said his driver. That man was battling with the police in the smelter shed. We must go and see if he's okay. The driver thought he was mad, but had no option but to ease Duck slowly forward, hoping that if he went in too loudly, he would get attacked. As the panic tank made his way inside, he was surprised to see that no one was there. The man, police officers, and the ghost Diesel had vanished. It was morning when Duck returned. Where have you been? It happened again, said Duck. What I experienced was the last time at Smelter's yard had happened again, but this time it was more scary, most unbearable. He told all about what happened, and it left his friend nearly speechless. Boko turned up, had delivered the midnight goods. He asked the two engines if any of them had seen Diesel, but they hadn't. In fact, Diesel had been so frightened by last night's events that he ran away to the railway. After Duck had told Boko about his experience, he told him a story that Edward told him about when there had been strange things at the smelter's yard. It began on a warm summer day in Solo in 1978. The smelter's yard was one of the newest sites on the island and had been built by hard-working men. Among them was a man named Nathan Jarrett. He was known as a quiet one who didn't talk to anyone and was said to have a dark persona. It was confirmed by enemies he had during his life. Records show that he had a number of drug and alcohol affluencies, which led him to being fired from his job. With him and many enemies, he became a criminal, and one night he murdered his former fellow partners in cold blood without being seen. The police ran investigations and found the weapon that Nathan used, but his DNA was not found. Then records of another murder shot came out. It was then when the police got a break in the case and saw that it was Nathan himself. They went to arrest him, but Nathan resisted and got away in his car, but it was soon being chased by them. Nathan was able to give them the slip and made his way to the smelter's yard, where he hijacked a diesel along with its crew. He held them hostage for 7 days. Now was as Nathan was found by the police after one of the diesel's crew escaped unseen and had called them to give them a tip. Soon a big gun battle broke out, and after killing one of the hostages, Nathan took control of the diesel and tried to use it as an escape vehicle, but instead he backed it into the smelter's shed and decided to hide there. But he wouldn't for long, and the gun battle started again, and this time Nathan shot 4 of the 6 police officers. As he made another desperate attempt to get away, he used the diesel as a getaway vehicle, but instead of panic, he put it in reverse, and as he tried to get out after seeing it was heading for the huge smelter pit, one of the 2 remaining police officers shot Nathan in the shoulder, which caused him to lose his gun. He was then shot in the leg and then in the lower abdomen. From there, the diesel crashed through the buffers and plunged into the smelter's pit, taking Nathan with it as it blew up. Doc and Oliver were in pure disbelief. What happened after that? They both asked. Diesel gave a sigh. Boko gave a sigh as he continued the rest of his story. The 4 dead policemen were laid to rest at a cemetery. The diesel was found charred beyond recognition. However, Nathan's body suffered the worst. His charred remains were taken away to the morgue. The events were devastating to the families and relatives of the lost policemen. Over time, life started to turn to normal. But workmen claimed to be spooked by hearing the sounds of gunshots. It is said that the ghosts of Nathan, Jared, and the 4 killed policemen still haunt the smelter's yard, and whenever they encounter each other, their gun battle starts all over again. As for the diesel that was lost and took Nathan's body with it, the remaining sightings are reports by men and staff claiming to see its spirit wandering around the smelter's yard in the sightings. Some have even stated that Nathan's Jared's ghost is in the cab, using it as a hiding place to shield himself from the police officers, as well as from us, because if it sees anyone, he will open fire and shoot as a warning to stay away. But these occurrences only happen at night, mostly on the anniversary of the tragic incident. Doc and Oliver fell silent. The story had never been told by anyone until now, but they both agree on one thing. The smelter's yard had a hidden legend that many never knew. That was when Doc and Diesel had experienced it for themselves. Doc is now aware of this and keeps the story locked away in his memory. He had never told anyone else about the story and wishes never to go anything like that, like what he had gone through twice. Whenever the Neverson police shooting came, Doc and his crew gave a moment of silence for the policeman who died, but never mentioned the name of the man who killed him and died with a hijacked diesel that took his life, Nathan Jarrett. The end.